Doing good. How are you, Zach?
I don't even know if I can put it into words. I'm super excited to be on here with you. I'm sure you could explain it a little better than myself. And I'm just really excited to be able to get started with this show. Our goal, obviously, especially in times like this, is to show unity through things like sports. And even though there is a hiatus right now, sports are starting to return, especially with the NBA, NASCAR, a few other things. So I'm just really excited. Let's get some thoughts from you, Gavin.
Hey, I'm happy to doing this. We were planning on doing this for a long time. We were like,
Yep.
we do it at the school, and especially with a time like this where everything's going on in the country, we wanted to make a podcast where we could all, come on, have fun, enjoy each other, and talk sports.
Absolutely. And so, just another message as we continue to go through. If you're watching us through YouTube, the links are in the description. We do have a Patreon and we do have a Teespring set up. You can purchase your favorite apparel with our logo, which you can see in the top right corner on it, sweatshirts, tote bags, t shirts, and more, as well as you can donate directly through Patreon if you can't, and you can definitely share it with some friends. And so, we're going to be sending 10% of all the money we make each month to a certain organization selected by you, the viewers. So, if anyone has suggestions, leave them in the comments. We're going to do a little vote at the end of the month for who we're going to donate to this month, and we're going to continue it from here moving out because, as Gavin, you and I have agreed on, it's important to utilize this program not only to talk about sports and unite us, but also to do as much good as we can for society, especially in times like this.
Always, we need to do better together, and have our voices be heard. And this is going to be
Absolutely.
one of our ways we can help in trying to do that.
Great. All right. So, without further ado, let's get started with our first sports topic of the day. For anyone that's taken a look at some of the current circumstances out there, considering the NBA, they have just released their new schedule and they've officially implemented it. Starting July 31st, there will be a final 8 games of the season played for 22 out of the 30 teams. So, in my opinion, it's a pretty good plan. You have a few teams that are just outside of the 8 seed, including teams like the Wizards, the Pelicans, the Trailblazers, and a few others, as well as Memphis and Orlando trying to hold on to their spots. So, pretty much in a nutshell, they're giving those teams opportunities. There's going to be a play-in tournament as well, and then they're going to play the playoffs as regular. They expect it to be done in October, and then the next season to start December 1st. So, Gavin, the main question here is, should teams like the Knicks and the Warriors feel bad about being left out? Because from what we see, it looks like any team that's considered on the bubble, with maybe outside of the Charlotte Hornets, who may even them be too far out to be able to even have the possibility of making the playoffs. Why waste those teams' time and let them get to a speedy offseason? So let me get some of the feedback on you. I know you're a big Warriors fan yourself. Not the year you were expecting due to some injuries, but
No.
not just those two teams, but the Charlotte Hornets and a few others. What are some of your thoughts on that? Should the Knicks and Warriors feel bad about being left out?
Well, if you're a team like the Warriors, you look at it, well, hey, we weren't healthy the whole year, so why not just take the rest of the summer, to get better and to get healthier. We had no Klay Thompson, Curry missed a majority of the season, and and there was no chance for them to come back anyway. If the NBA were to bring all teams back, the teams like the Knicks and Warriors just had no shot. They were just playing to play and fulfill time and just to make revenue. But but the Knicks, on the other hand, I can kind of see where they're upset because they are a young team. They need to learn to keep developing and keep playing, even
Right.
though they're in last place. I understand. I understand where the NBA is coming from. Like, hey, if you have no chance, you have you you basically don't need to come. And some players too also don't want to play. Some players right now feel like this is not the time to be playing NBA basketball, and they just feel they should just wait till next season. But it's going to be a long wait for them.
Definitely. And so, like you'd mentioned, some teams like the Knicks that are young are trying to get that playing experience. In my opinion, it's a great move by the NBA. I think that 22 teams that are either on the bubble or are definitively in the playoffs, it's a good place to be. The teams that want it the most are going to go out there, they're going to show up, they're going to play. In my opinion, I feel that every single team has a realistic chance of making the playoffs. You can go 8-0 there, and if the teams above you lose or drop one or two more games than you, there's a good chance that that 8 seed can be up for grabs in either conference. And so that carried us into our next point, which talks about the Eastern Conference. Only 9 teams made it into the Orlando playoff playing format. And that one team that is not in the playoffs right now is the Washington Wizards, a team that has been an interesting team over the past few years. John Wall suffering a Achilles injury more than a year back, has not played, is not going to play this season, has already declared that. Their shooting guard, Bradley Beal, who is on that team now with an expiring contract coming up. The question now is he's been averaging the second most points in the NBA right behind James Harden. And so the question really is, can Beal carry the Wizards to the playoffs?
No, he cannot. Look, Bradley, I do agree this. Bradley Bill was snubbed off the All Star team. Do I think Bradley Bill deserved to be there? Yes. Do I believe Bradley Beal is a top 10 NBA talent on a given day? Maybe, but majority of times top 15. I don't think he has enough around him to go to the playoffs. You need John Wall, and you need nowadays in NBA it's a dynamic duo to basically go to the playoffs.
Yep,
You
Anthony
need
Davis, LeBron
Yeah,
James,
LeBron
Kawhi
James,
Leonard,
Anthony
Paul
Davis,
George, all of them. Yep.
yeah. So I don't think Bradley Beal has enough, and I don't think Bradley Beal is consistent enough to make a playoff case. Do I believe if John Wall comes back next year and these guys go together? Yes, but we also got to remember John Wall hasn't almost played in 2 years. That's a lot of time for you to one to get out of
Right.
shape.
Who knows? He's going to come
Two,
back to his top level. Derrick Rose gets hurt. He came back, was able to play at a fair level, but has not been able to return to that MVP style. And John Wall, in my opinion, never really has achieved that his peak. But I don't know if that is going to ever be accomplished. It may have been cut short due to his ruptured Achilles.
Well, I do think John Wall at some point was one of the best point guards in the East, not the best point guard of the whole league, but in the East.
Right.
John Wall is a unique talent. He was more of a slashing and a playmaker, to be exact. More like gets him assist. Wasn't the best shooter.
Right, and that's one thing Bradley Beal is missing. One thing about shooting guards, they're a lot more ball down. James Harden, they're going to shoot the ball a lot more. The assists aren't necessarily going to be there. Guys like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, a lot of them who are willing to take that final shot. One of the problems with the Wizards is a lack of spreading the ball around. And are there a lot of guys to really spread it to outside of Beal? You have a couple of guys who are able to be built around their role players, but there's no one else around him, and he's not making his teammates better. There's guys like, even in my opinion, I'd argue Devin Booker and guys like John Wall. They're just putting up a lot of points. They're able to be productive, but they need that facilitator, that's someone that can really help get the ball to other players. But more importantly, he needs a role players. He needs a bench. There's a lot that the Washington Wizards are missing on.
Well, he needs someone to set him up too. He's not
Right, he's carrying the ball down the court like John.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who their point guard has been for most of the year. It's been pretty inconsistent.
James,
and so when you get John Wall back, I mean, getting that playmaker, getting the attention off of you for the time you think about it with football, guys like Zach Ertz, when there's no wide receiver, Stephon Gilmore's playing one-on-one against him. I mean, at some point you have to have someone else that can take the distractions away from him and just let you play your game without having to throw the whole team on your back. I think we agree on that. I think that I don't know about the Magic. I don't know if the Magic are going to be consistent enough to be able to retain that 8 seed. I mean, you have Markelle Fultz, who could be up and coming. I don't know. I mean, he's not really the guy you're building around there. You have Aaron Gordon. You have a few other players down there that could potentially do it. The question is, can they just win enough games to get to the 8 seed? In my opinion, they're getting swept by the Bucks either way, whoever wins. So,
well,
I'm taking the Magic. I'm taking the Magic to go and win.
I'm a firm believer that the Magic have enough to, make the playoffs. They made the playoffs last year. They took Kawhi Leonard to, I think, five games. Don't quote me on that. I'm not too sure, but I look at the Wizards. I'm like, well, who's around Bradley Beal to help him? If there's not anyone else,
right.
And who's your point guard? Look, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they're a dynamic duo for this reason only. Klay Thompson's not a playmaker. He's not going to go around, dribble around it, and get his own shot. Yeah, Steph Curry draws a double team and kicks out to Klay Thompson. Or when Kevin Durant was there, it was the same way. That's what makes Anthony Davis and LeBron James great, because one another, they can just complement each other. But James Harden and Bradley Beal are two different players. And the reason I bring this up is James Harden, without Russell Westbrook, even though he had Chris Paul, who is a pure point guard.
Chris Paul's a good playmaker.
Yeah, he is. But the thing is, too, James Harden was able to do it all by himself. If he didn't need anyone to set him a screen or pass on the ball for a catch and shoot shot. He just, did his little step back and made the shot. Bradley Beal, on the other hand,
dropped 50 points every given night.
Yeah, and I don't think Bradley Beal can get his own shot without anyone helping him out. So I think that's what the main, I don't want to say main problem. We also got to take a look at who's around Bradley Beal.
And their defensive abilities too.
Huh? What'd you say?
Well, part of the, as you mentioned, the role players, it's defensive abilities too. Who's there on defense? Who's locking up the number one guy on the other team? And so when you're a shooting guard, usually not the most. I mean, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, obviously, even Josh Richardson, you could argue is a good defensive shooting guard. But a lot of the time, it's going to be your small forward. Your forward position is pretty important defensively. You think Kawhi Leonard, you think LeBron James, a few guys like that. So they just don't have enough pieces around them to really build and grow the way that they should this year. And so maybe in the future they could potentially get back up. They're not too far out from being in the playoffs a few years back, but it's all about whether or not John Wall can stay healthy and what that front office can do to surround those two with the right players for them.
Well, I have a question for you then. Do you believe that if John Wall was here right now, do you think they would have enough to contend with the Bucks?
No. To make the playoffs, maybe. Contend with the Bucks, no.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to stop Giannis. He'll be able to get in there. I mean, it's until he faced the Raptors last year, he had no problem cutting through defenses. The Pistons were an easy get rid of. Even the Celtics, who even had 2 wins in that series, he had no problem getting past them with a healthy Kyrie Irving, unlike the year before. So, no, the Bucks are a very dominant team. The only teams that can really stop the Bucks are, not the Raptors issue. They don't have those big defensive abilities. Siakam can definitely be up there. I would say the Sixers on paper, but they have not shown it, so I don't even want to say that. In my opinion, the Bucks have the easiest walkthrough to the NBA Finals, and there's no excuses to not make the NBA Finals this year for them.
Well, we said that last year too about the Milwaukee Bucks, and what happened?
You have Kawhi Leonard there. This year, there's literally nobody. And Joel Embiid played him the first time, did great. Him and Ben Simmons locked him up on Christmas Day, and the past 2 times it's been a disaster. The Sixers don't stand a chance as of right now against the Milwaukee Bucks, especially in a playoff series, unless all of a sudden Al Horford becomes 5 years younger. Joel Embiid has the stamina of Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons has the fight and ability in him to actually go out there and make an effort most of the game.
You're right. You're right. No one's going to be able to stop Giannis. I think the only thing that can stop Giannis is Giannis himself. And a lot of criticism Giannis used to take was him not being able to shoot. And what he develops a
learned how to shoot the ball.
I don't want to say consistent jump shot, but it's enough to make defenders come out to the 3-point line and get him. But I do think
Ben Simmons has to do.
But
more on that later, though.
Another time.
Well, no, I get what you mean. Giannis is. His jump shots has gotten better. It's an interesting shot to say the least, but he's not afraid to pull up. And when he does, they have to come out and defend him, or else he can make them pay. He is consistent enough to make them pay on occasion. But it's about for him. He wants to be able to facilitate the ball, get it to the other shooters, and so he has enough around him. They really built a good team, and they got on the bench with Kyle Korver. They brought in Robin Lopez for the few minutes that Brooke would not be on the court, and so I think they built a really good team, and it's about just staying consistent with it. And so we'll see what happens. The Bucks and the Lakers. Right before the hiatus started, LeBron had beaten the Clippers and the Bucks in the same week. So we'll see what happens.
But also, I want to bring it up too that the Bucks also did get the Lakers as well. I do believe I do believe that Giannis has enough around him to maybe go to the finals. But I'm not a real believer in Chris Middleton. He still has a lot to
do. And he's sometimes in the playoffs, your best player gets virtually eliminated just by either the pressure of it or the defense or anything like that. It's about who else can step up and make the big shots, and can Chris Middleton do it?
Yeah. And another thing about the Wizards and Bradley Beal, like I said, Bradley Beal, I think he's a great player. I think
individual player, right?
But I don't think when it comes to team play and when it comes to winning more games, I don't think they have enough to do it.
All right, great. So that wraps up that discussion. We're going to get to our next category here, which is around Zion Williamson. Can Zion Williamson
could not, and there is Zion Williamson,
amazing. Can he and his team go?
And this is special.
There are a couple teams ahead.
It is absolutely special.
Portland. Let's bring back in Gavin and let's see what he has to say. I think that it's a very interesting topic, especially since what happened when Zion came in for them. They became a much different team, especially guys like Brandon Ingram, who stepped up this year, and a few other guys. So, Gavin, I'll get it to you. Will Zion be able to claim the 8 seed with the Pelicans?
No, I don't think so. And here's why. The Pelicans have to jump over 2 teams. They have to jump over the Trailblazers with an angry Damian Lillard, because he's been really vocal. And you have to jump over John Morant and Jaren Jackson, who are really having fun this year.
Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis. So I do believe they have enough pieces to play. I'm not saying they will be able to, but I don't think there's 8 games. It's 8 games. You got 8 games.
They're 3.5, right? So they're tied with the Blazers at 21.5 back, and the Grizzlies are 18 back. So they have 3.5 games. They need to win 4 more games. If they can win all 8, and then if they were to win all 8, then the Grizzlies would have to drop at least half. So it's a tall order. I'm going to say yes. I think that they do. I think Lonzo Ball has matured a lot after going from LA to New Orleans. I'm going to say that guys like JJ Redick coming off the bench are going to be huge. Drew Holiday's been in this environment before. Brandon Ingram's obviously is new to this environment, but he's really showed up this year. I think it's a great opportunity for Zion to show what he's worth. And let's be honest here, Zion gets ratings, and the NBA is doing whatever they can to give him the best opportunity. And they're no underachievers as far as I see. They're a hardworking team. I believe in the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans get the 8 spot. I think that the Grizzlies fall off, and I think the Trailblazers aren't able to get the job done. They fall up short.
Well, you're right. The Zion is the NBA's next golden boy, if you want to say, And I wouldn't be surprised if they do make the AC and check this out. Check this highlight. LeBron and AD versus Zion and his Pelicans. That's going to I mean, everybody wants to see LeBron versus Zion again because the first match that they had, no one couldn't get enough. They wanted more.
Right, and it was a competitive game. I mean, I think it was the game in New Orleans. Anthony Davis was out, and the Lakers still had no problem winning. But like we mentioned, the team's maturing. Like, one thing about basketball that you can't measure objectively is the maturing aspect. Are you making smarter shots throughout the years? Are you passing the ball more? Lonzo Ball's emerged as a great passer this year, a great defensive point guard, and so obviously he's not the best shooter, but his jump shot's gotten better. And then you do have guys like Brandon Ingram who have showed up this year as a true small forward, and in my opinion, is one of the closest things to Kevin Durant. Obviously, he's not as tall as Kevin. It doesn't have those power forward elements to it, but I think it's a true small forward. And the question is who can take the big shots when it matters. And I think it's Ingram. But most importantly, Zion can rip apart a lot of defenses. He's exposing how weak defenses are in the NBA today. And so guys like Shaq used to do that. Zion's is not 7 foot. She's shorter than that. He's a power forward, and that's pretty much where he is.
But he's big. He's
big, and he's powerful, and they're going to do whatever they can. So my opinion is that the Pelicans do snag the 8th spot, and I say that they lose in 5 or 6 competitively to the Lakers.
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. I want to go back. Do you remember the time where they're talking about the trade and who should go and who shouldn't go? I think if the Lakers had kept Brandon Ingram instead of Kyle Kuzma, who was awful this year, who was really awful. Yeah, awful. And they kept the wrong. I think they should have kept Brandon Ingram. I think Brandon Ingram got a really unfair. I don't want to say. Yeah, I'm going to say that. I think
you brought in the best small forward in the NFL in the NBA.
But I think
he gets buried in that depth chart. I don't know how much he was able to really show up last year. From LeBron got hurt towards the end of the year. He had opportunities. I know Ingram had injury problems of his own that maybe they were worried about. They thought back then that Kuzma was the better option. How would it change? They'd probably start LeBron at the point, to be honest, what they were going to do. And he's done a lot of point guard this year. His assists are up. He's acting a lot more like a point guard, more Magic Johnson style point guard. And so I think it would have helped them, but they don't need it. They have a good bench. LeBron's obviously a very good player. They have Anthony Davis. Those two complement each other. They have a really good role play center in JaVale McGee. And so I think that they're set, and they're pretty much outside of the Clippers. Maybe I think that they pretty much have a good shot to the finals, depending on how they play against the other team in Los Angeles.
You're not wrong. But here's the thing. If they would have kept Brandon Ingram, right? If Brandon Ingram of this year was on that team, I would be singing a different tune about the Lakers. I would be like, well, they might not be not beatable because Brandon Ingram's shooting, and when I mean his shooting,
you make up for that with the acquisition of Danny Green. But most power forwards aren't fantastic shooters. I mean, we're getting the more modern power forward, the Anthony Davis, Blake Griffin's developed a jump shot, and a few other guys have been able to begin shooting threes. You think of Karl Anthony Towns, who's more of a center, but definitely has more of a power forward build. Anthony Davis looks really natural shooting the ball, and some guys don't. But he, even as long as he is, I think you've made up for your shooting woes, and you've also gotten rid of those injury potentials with Brandon Ingram. You also got Anthony Davis in return. I don't know. I don't know if Kyle Kuzma was even talked about in that trade, or if the Pelicans would have accepted it, which would have been Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon with Brandon Ingram, but would be with Kyle Kuzma instead, which is what you're saying is replacing him. Because I think what they thought they were going to do is at first have Anthony Davis at the center position, which he became reluctant to, and they ended up going out and getting JaVale McGee. And then they would have started Kuzma at the 4, LeBron at the 3, Green at the 2, and then Rondo at the 1 most likely. And then they decided to move Davis to the 4, went out, got McGee. They obviously got Danny Green after Kawhi signed with the Clippers. And so at that point they figured, there's really no role here for a guy like Brandon Ingram, which they already at that point shipped out. So I don't know. I mean, they definitely were not sold on Lonzo Ball. There was a lot of pressure on him early. Josh Hart was a role player. So I call this one of the most balanced trades in NBA history for both teams because it gives both teams players a fresh opportunity.
I think the winner,
that team pretty much refreshes itself. And the Lakers were a mess before LeBron got there. People forget about the drama they had for a few years when they were dwelling in the basement after getting D'Angelo Russell and Kobe left and Julius Randle left and all that stuff. So definitely.
Well, 3 things then. 3 things.
Yep.
1, I think the winners of the trade are the Pelicans for years down to come. The draft, they got Jared. Yep. I'm a butcher his name and I apologize. Is it Jared Jackson? It's not Jared Jackson. Jackson Hayes. That's what it is. And they got Zion, obviously. But I think the they're a young core, and I think the winner of the winner, like the individual player that's the winner of the trade, is not Anthony Davis. It's actually Lonzo Ball. You get away from your dad's
Yep.
control,
Get
your
away
own
from the high stakes of LA.
the eyes are on you, but they're more on Zion now, And Zion was the best thing that happened in Lonzo's career because he can have someone he can just throw oops to the whole game. I think they're going to be a major problem down the line. Give him like
As
another
they
year.
develop, as they get a stronger bench.
Yeah. And I think also the losers of this trade might be the Los Angeles Lakers because it's not for sure that Anthony Davis is going to stay.
That's
I remember a report earlier this year that Anthony Davis said he might want to go to Brooklyn to join KD and Kyrie, which would be scary with Jared Allen too, and you get rid of DeAndre Jordan. Or he might go home to Chicago and join Zach LaVine, which would be pretty fantastic too. I think the pure winners in this trade and losers were the Lakers, and the winner was Lonzo Ball and the Pelicans. And last thing on Brandon Ingram, I do believe that Brandon Ingram got an unfair chance when he was with LA because you got to think about it, like you're playing under LeBron's shadow. LeBron is always about LeBron. And two, he kind of felt like, well, hey, I don't got to do anything. The Kings here. I could just sit back and relax, which shouldn't be your mentality, but who knows? I think this trade also benefits him too because I don't think he wanted to be there anymore.
No, he didn't. And so we are going to get to the next part as we continue to move on. But quick thing, if the Lakers, yes or no question, if the Lakers win the finals, do they win the trade or at least even it out this year if they win the finals this year?
I think they might even it out.
Okay, there we go.
I think the young core still wins right now, but it evens out.
All right, great. So our next one, will Damian Lillard regret his comments as far as saying he would not play if there was no legitimate opportunity for his team to make the playoffs? They're 3.5 games back, which means they have to win pretty much 4 more games than the Grizzlies, which is doable. So I'll ask you first. We'll get about 2 or 3 minutes on this topic. Will Damian Lillard regret his comments, and will he go out there and play?
If he doesn't make the playoffs, yes, because it wasn't like a guaranteed shot. They weren't saying, oh, well, Dame comes back, he's definitely going to win. They never said that. I think the problem with Damian Lillard is he felt entitled to the AC spot, which I could see his point. But he made it like, oh, that's mine. I deserve it. They don't deserve it. Like,
he was playing like he was only hurt for a few games. When he played, even then they weren't amazing. They were starting to go on a hot streak down the line. I do recall before the hiatus started, he got hurt and came back actually. They weren't that bad. They were a fair team at the end, starting to remember the 3 seed that they were last year. But at the same time, Dame, you put yourself in this situation. You were out there on the court, and to abandon your teammates right now when there is a quote-unquote legitimate opportunity, which he might go back on his comments with, that's really what the question is. I think he's going to step back his comments. In my opinion, it's very out of character for him. He's a very, very high character guy. I view Damian Lillard very highly, and I know you do too as well, Gavin. And I think that's something you really don't – it's one of those things where you can think that, but you shouldn't say it publicly. And so in this case,
these are one of these things that you keep to yourself. You don't say out like you said. Now, my thing is, people are going to kind of view Damian Lillard as the crybaby, as the
depends what happens too with the playoffs if he makes
exactly. Because if he doesn't make playoffs, right? And let's say Damian Lillard doesn't make playoffs, so people are going to point the finger at him like, well, hey, you got what you asked for. You got eight games. You got 8 chances.
You got an opportunity, a playing tournament.
Opportunity to go. And you're going to play all those teams. I think they're playing all those teams. I'm not too sure. We haven't seen a schedule, but
they're getting an opportunity to make the playoffs.
Exactly.
If you can't beat more than half of your teams and win more than Memphis, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
But
considering the circumstances, I feel like that this is the best opportunity. The NBA did this perfectly. I have a lot of respect for Adam Silver. I've mentioned that before. He's a great commissioner.
Well, Adam Silver, go ahead.
And so I think that he's done this. He's given these teams an opportunity. If your team sucked or your team fell short or you fell short for your team during these certain amount of games, that's on you. It's on nobody else. No one's going to give you 30 games to make up for it. That's part of life. You were the 3 seed last year. You lost Rodney Hood. I'm sorry. Yusuf Nurkic never was healthy this year. I'm apologize for that, but that's part of the game. And the other teams that are the basement dwellers, the Warriors, the Knicks, the Hornets, any of these teams who aren't playing, and they obviously don't have an opportunity to make the playoffs, they're not, you really should think about what you're saying. And so this is one of those situations where you should keep that to yourself, even if you feel that way.
Well, it's one of these instances where Damian Lillard, you got to – I see where he's coming from because here's the thing. First of all, let me just say Adam Silver is a fantastic commission.
Agreed.
He does the most. He makes sure every side gets what they want, and he doesn't overrule anybody. He did one time, but that's for another day. But if I'm Adam Silver, I'm like, all right, well, you know what? He looked at the Western Conference. He looked teams are only like a half game out for the 8th spot. If you're looking at that, because he could have basically said, no, what's in the playoffs is
3.5 pack, yeah. So they did this the best way they could. So go ahead.
He just basically kind of like gave Damian Lillard what he asked. He said, you know what? I'm gonna give you 8 games. If you don't make it, oh well.
Yep, that's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it is.
All right. So that's a great part. We're going to keep up to date on that. We'll see what happens as we progress. Let's get to our next part. I know we are the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show, but we do have to at some point hit our hometown team. So the question is, which Sixer will benefit the most from the hiatus? Gavin, I'll let you go first.
I think it's Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, before he went out, he was a man here. Everybody loved Ben Simmons. You know,
good deep defender, played well for that hurt.
And I think Ben Simmons, first of all, he had 2 months, or 3, maybe give or take 3 months. He did
140 days all in all.
Yeah, 40 days off, and he also got to work on his back. He should be stronger now, and hopefully, I don't want to say he was hitting the gym, but hopefully he stayed in shape. You know, that's my really big criticism of Joel Embiid. There's 2 reasons why the 76ers won't win a championship right now. If Joel Embiid, first of all, that guy is moody, and I love JoJo. I really do, but
he needs to have that emotion of the stadium, and there's not going to be fans. Who's he going to rally up during the playoffs?
Exactly.
Where's the energy going to come from? But no, go ahead.
Exactly. And also, I think Brett Brown is the biggest reason. We can forget about JoJo's moodiness because JoJo could turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. But if it's the man at the helm, Brett Brown needs to go. And I'm mad because he almost made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, which
at that point it was hard. Like we're all like fire Brett Brown if we lose the series. If your team's 1 bounce away from being in the conference final, it's so hard at that moment to say Brett Brown should go. I think that Elton Brand did a great job last year building that team for last season. He went all in last year, and we failed. In my opinion, the biggest person I would blame, and I'll get to my answer to this question after I state this about which Sixer benefits the most. In my opinion, Elton Brand went all in for last year when he didn't have to. Giannis has been in the league since, I think, 2012, 2013, and just now he has a team around him to go to the NBA Finals. Ben Simmons is in his 3rd season. Joel's been on this team for 6 years, and this is his 4th season, technically, 3rd season as well with Ben. This team has time. If you think that they're so talented that they should be in the finals right now, that's a great thing. You want to retain them both for as long as you can. Elton Brand decided to trade away valuable role pieces in Robert Covington. I know you don't like him, but in addition to that, Dario Saric, which were good role pieces. If we kept Jimmy Butler, that trade's okay. But here's where the problem is. We also went out and got Tobias Harris. By getting Tobias Harris, we also got Mike Scott and Boban Marjanovic, both great role players in the playoffs last year. We also lost Landry Shamet, who could have been our starting shooting guard.
Really good this year.
And is actually the best 3-point shooter in that class, meaning Trae Young and Luka Doncic shoot worse than him from the 3-point line, although their attempts are probably up. But bottom line, Landry Shamet's a good shooter. In addition to that, we lost a first-round pick, and we lost a couple of other players like Mike Muscala, who was a role player, and a few other pieces that were put together for this team specifically. In the offseason, my biggest blunder with the front office was losing J.J. Redick. If you listen to the podcast that J.J. Redick hosts with Jimmy Butler on it, when he was on, he said that the second he walked into his meeting in the offseason, he felt like this team didn't want him here. And the beginning of the season, Stephen A. Smith on ESPN said the 76ers are going to regret losing J.J. Redick. I thought he was crazy at the time, and I'd never have regretted a statement more. We need shooters. The problem with the Sixers does not lie with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Is Joel Embiid moody sometimes? Can Joel Embiid get in his own head? Yes, but that's not the number one reason. We need other players to help. These 2 guys cannot carry this team. I love Tobias Harris, but unless he's willing to shoot more, I don't think he's a good fit here. He's not as good of a delegator as other small forwards have been in the past. He's more naturally of a power forward. But number 2, we got the best situation. Jimmy Butler didn't want to be here. That's more because of his problem with Brett Brown, not with Ben Simmons, according to some reports. But we still got Josh Richardson. That was a good move.
That was a good one.
Because considering we weren't going to be able to retain Jimmy, to sign and trade him for Josh Richardson, that's a good move. However, for some reason, we signed Al Horford. And there could be 2 thoughts there. Number 1, to play power forward, even though he definitively has stated He's never played power forward since his first year with the Atlanta Hawks. But number two, do you think that Joel Embiid is that mentally weak that you can't let Al Horford play on another team? And so now I'm going to get to my point. Which Sixer will benefit the most from the hiatus? My answer is Joel Embiid. It's given him time to reflect and say, I want to be a champion. He cried last year after that loss to the Raptors. He cried. And this year, you'd think he'd be out there more motivated, better, thinner. He was, but it all went away pretty quickly. And his first time in Toronto, he dropped 0 points. Marcus Gasol's in his head. These are problems that need to stop, and it starts with having a tough and gritty head coach. Brett Brown needs to go. I agree with you on that. But I do want to trace it back why this benefits Joel Embiid. I think that he did watch The Last Dance. Most NBA players did. I think it gives you a good idea of what kind of mentality you need to be a consistent winner. And I think that gave Joel Embiid a great time to reflect and really see what he really wants. So in my opinion, Joel Embiid benefits the most from this hiatus from the Sixers, and I expect him to come out with a killer mentality, or it's his time to go.
Do you think he'll be in shape? Because that's a big question. We always
criticize. He better be. Based on precedent, I say no. But I mean, you want to win a championship or not? You really should be the second favorite to win the East.
You should.
Boston came out of nowhere, but going into the season, you were the favorite pretty much. So he needs to be out there with accountability, and in my opinion, it does start with coaching because someone has to be tough on him. But at the same time, at this point, he needs to know what he has to do at his age and his experience in the NBA.
Real quick before we go to another subject, I want to say this. I want to go back. I don't think Tobias Harris was worth the $195 million or $75 million he got. I think if it really was Brett Brown that Jimmy Butler didn't want to stay, wouldn't you think? Well, he was the best. I think Jimmy Butler was the best player on the team last year, hands down.
Jimmy Butler had that mentality that helped the Sixers out.
Jimmy Butler had that dog in him.
Ben didn't love playing with him because he wanted to handle the ball more, but I think that they could have pushed that under the rug, especially with a different coach. If you're asking me, would I rather fire Brett Brown and bring in a replacement and keep Jimmy Butler or lose him and go into this year, I would have chose Jimmy Butler. He was a crucial piece.
Jimmy Butler was a dog. There was something that Jimmy Butler brought that none of these guys bring.
Take a look at what he's done in Miami this year. He's taken guys like Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn and made them into good players. He motivated Bam Adebayo. He has his own team to lead, and his coach lets him do it. And remember, their coach has won finals with I don't know if he was there for the first D-Wade finals. I think he may have been. But at least he was there through the LeBron era with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. And so the coach lets him do what he needs to do, and Brett Brown either needs to learn from that or at this point he needs to go.
Yeah.
And now you're stuck with Al Horford. Hopefully they can trade him and collect some dead cap. You're going to have to, but it's okay because you have time with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So unless you have anything else on that, Gavin, we can get ready to go on to the next topic.
Every time I talk Sixers, I get a no.
All right, we'll continue on that. Stay tuned for tomorrow. We'll be talking more Sixers talk as well. Let's now switch gears. We're going to talk about the MLB. I know we're a little bit over 12:30. That's fine with me as long as our viewers are still interested in watching. And so we'll go a few more minutes. We've got a few more topics to talk about, and then we'll be wrapping up till tomorrow. So how should MLB players be viewed over their money? Do you think that they deserve their full salaries? Do you think they should be proportioned based on how many games they play? Or do you think they're being a bunch of whiny individuals?
Well, here's the thing. Look, the guys that were speaking up on it, and my main issue with this topic was, well, hold on, before I even get into that, I do think it kind of shows like, hey, some of these players are really about their money and not about the game. If you really love the game of baseball, if you really, like you guys always say, it wouldn't matter how much you make, especially if you're Bryce Harper, who made a lot of money last year.
He's making $1 billion over the next 13 years. And Gavin, I'm sorry to cut you off for a second, but I'm sure you can agree with me on this. Guys like Jimmy Butler or people that did not come from money and worked really hard to get a scholarship and then come to the NBA. And Scottie Pippen, I know we spoke about this before. The reason Pippen signed a long-term deal was to make sure his family was financially secure. If you're a guy like Bryce Harper, and I love Bryce Harper, I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fan, I'm a big fan of Harper, but I do disagree with him on this, and it's okay to disagree with someone and still like them as a person. But tracing it back as I digress, Bryce Harper and with Scottie Pippen got financially secure. That's why he signed the long-term deal. Bryce Harper is making $330 million over 13 years. Especially in a time like this, he should just shut up. Now, I know that there are people out there who have told guys like LeBron James who speak on social injustice to shut up. I'm not in that category. I think that's great for that, but we'll get to that another time. As far as it's for money, especially in a time like this, you shouldn't be talking about it. It's one of those things where you can have that opinion, and many players do, but it's best to keep your mouth shut about it, especially when sports are so needed right now to unite us all.
May I just say this? People are like, I'm not a genius on Blake Snell's contract because he was the one that started this. I think people like Bryce, like the Bryce Harpers and Mike Trout, the people that
The
make
guys
over,
who have already gotten their
yeah,
contract.
the guys already got their money. And plus, you got to think about Bryce Harper is well Under Armour. How much money do you really need, Bryce? How much you got paid? If I recall, you didn't do much last year.
No.
All right, you didn't do much last year. When we needed you the most, you hit a couple, you had a couple highlights here and there, but you didn't do much last year. If I'm worried, if you want me to be honest with you, Bryce, show me you're worth the money. Because last year it was like, okay, you're worth maybe
And
20.
he already has the contract. There's no 1 year prove it deal like with Jalen Mills this season.
Yeah.
He has a 13-year, $330 million plus contract. And
Exactly.
a big deal, that's pretty much guaranteed.
Exactly.
So at some point you should say, I think that us as players really, we should understand that there are people struggling. And now Blake Snell mentioned risking his life, and now we're not going to touch too much into that. But think about the people at the grocery stores. Think about people that are working in the medical
They're the real heroes right now.
that are out there and risking their lives to help other people. Wouldn't it be great for them to go home and be able to watch sports with their families at night? I think these players need to just get perspective, and maybe they don't know any better, and that's okay, but don't speak until you're educated. And that's kind of been the big theme lately, and that's my takeaway from this topic.
My last thing on this one is, I get it. Money is a big factor and a whole bunch, but for you guys literally, because I think the MLB was close to coming back. They only said they were going to be delayed 2 weeks. They had plans. They're going
right, and then they had the July 1st plans, and now they're putting it back more.
We only have a date.
It's because of the Major League Baseball Players Association. The MLB owners are all coming out with good plans. It's about the Players Association, and that's why hopefully tomorrow we can start talking about the new proposal, because by then the MLBPA should look at it. But no, go ahead with that point you were mentioning.
I mean, like you said, how does Blake Snell and Bryce Harper feel? I get it, guys. Money is money. You're going out there, you're risking your lives, but the real heroes right now are the doctors,
definitely,
the EMT workers, the people that are testing for this virus, the grocery store workers. The people that walk around. And I was in Target the other day, Star. I was in Target, and I had a nice interaction with this lady, and I was complaining about my mask, and I'm wearing a bandana. So that's not that bad. It's not around your ears. It's just around your neck. And I'm wearing a bandana, and I go, I can't wait to get off. She was like, how do you think I feel with 8 hours of the doctor?
Right. It's about, like you mentioned, and we touched on
she's not
Snell and Harper. Is that perspective?
And not to give up, Target people's business, or not to hate on it, but they're not making that much either doing this that I know of. And they're saying
they need to be able to. A lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck, and so. For these players, it's about perspective, and we mentioned this with Damian Lillard, with other teams that aren't in it, and then with Blake Snell and Bryce Harper. The big takeaway here, and then we're going to get to our final debate for the day. I think that's definitely the big takeaway, is just thinking about perspective and still respect for these players. I love what they do on the field, and hopefully we can have a World Series trophy hung up by Harper down Broad Street in the next few years, at least the next 13 years, or 12 years now.
Don't give me a
But sometimes understand where you're coming from, and hopefully as we move through, they'll get a little bit of a better understanding and really understand that sports really is one of those things that unites us all.
One last thing on that. Bryce, Blake, I get it, but this is not the time.
Definitely.
If it was social injustice issues and things that are going on with the world, then yes, by all means. But this is money. Come on now. It's for the love of the game.
Definitely. And no, most NBA players, guys in the NBA and NFL who are so passionate about the sport, and MLB has a lot of these guys too. Don't let these two guys overlook a lot of the MLB. A lot of people are doing it for the love of the sport. You do have to get financially secure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're making a lot of money, and you're guaranteed to make money for a while. And so, that's my big takeaway from that as well.
Same.
All right, great. So our final topic of the day is about the NFL with or without fans. And so, Gavin, we just have a quick picture of the San Francisco 49ers stadium up here, and then we're going to resume to our normal. Let's talk about it now. Are we going to have fans this year? Gavin, I'll let you go first.
The NFL will be the first sport league with fans. And let me go with that. Look, these venues are huge. If you're telling you cannot find a way to put 5,000 people and socially distance, and I'm not talking about selling out. I'm talking about hey, maybe we just get the lower level, right? And we spread them all around the lower level, and season ticket holders. Let's say we take all the season ticket holders and the owners and people, and with companies and stuff that go to these events. and then like let's say like we have like maybe like a some odd tickets for others, and you're telling me we can't put them like down there. There will be no food or drinks. All right, that might be a little bit difficult. I mean, we could be finding out. But if you're asked if you would be like, all right, you guys can bring your own food. Obviously, you have to be in a bag where you can see, visualize
Yep,
it.
yep.
But you can bring your own food. And I was talking to my dad with this about to my dad about this the other day. I said, "You're telling me we can't fit maybe like 5,000 people, social distance each row, one every other row with maybe like two seats in between, and two, or if you're with that person, maybe a seat in between, but like two. And you're telling me we can't do that? Even in baseball too. Okay, so we're talking about maybe baseball players sitting in the behind home plate and stuff like that, outside the dugout.
Yep.
Okay, well, would we put the people down the third baseline, or will we put them down in the outfield? Like, there's ways to do this. I just don't think no one's using their brains. And also, like the NBA, the same way we could put fans not on the top level, but let's say like
Let's space them out.
let's space them out. It's doable. And then as we go on, we'll go. It's like baby steps. We gotta go back to the
Yeah.
usual way. I think that is ludicrous. I think it's blasphemous, and I think it's really stupid that fans are being banned from their own the sport they love. And playoffs of the NBA is going to sound really boring.
They're gonna have the 2K audio. Did you take a look at
That
that?
was so stupid.
That's
Look.
going to be interesting. It's going to be different this year. If you ever watch, and we'll get back to the NFL in a quick sec as far as the fans, but if you ever watch like the Warriors in the finals, you see not the Chase Center, but the Oracle Arena.
Yeah,
It makes a big difference, and it's going to be weird this year. The energy's
yeah,
going to be
yeah,
different. And then back to the NFL, I'll give you my take on it.
yeah.
It's hard to say right now. I think there is going to be in Texas. They are now allowing stadiums to fill up. Obviously, there's no sports on, but at 25% capacity.
That's fine.
I think they're going to stick with that. But there are going to be some things that they are going to have. I think they will have food in most stadiums available. I just think they're going to have a lot of hand sanitizer stations.
That's
I can
fine.
even see them having full capacity by September. I'm going to be honest with you. In some places like Texas and other places that are willing to take that risk, at that point, if they're giving people the choice, I say they're going to have full capacity at least by week 4 or 5. As we continue to have more data and more important things like that, we're obviously not health experts. We're not going to be breaking down the numbers of the coronavirus on our show.
Yeah.
But as far as from that perspective, there's not going to be masks worn by the players the way that they're suggesting. Most people aren't going to wear masks. If you're outside in the weather, they might do 50% capacity every other seat, but there's going to be lots of hand sanitizing stations. Food's still going to be served. They're obviously going to wear masks when they're making the food.
Yeah.
In my opinion, though, just having the awareness, knowing that you shouldn't be licking your fingers unless you know where they've been, or rubbing your eyes or things like that. Just that awareness enough should help reduce the spread.
We were taught that when we were 4 years old. Don't put your hands in your nose. Don't put it in your mouth.
Right, we were taught that at a young age.
The but the fact that Americans, right, and this is, and I'm not going to get political because that's not me. The reaction to this was so beyond slow. Tortoise in the hair. You ever heard of that story before?
I've heard it.
Tortoise, the slowest thing on earth, would have seen this coming a mile away and would have reacted quicker than what we did. Like, my opinion is, and we gotta remember, y'all, it's not gonna go away. We gotta remember, as human beings, as people, as Americans, we gotta remember, just go on about day-to-day business and be smart about our movements.
And that's what it's going to be. With the NFL talking about fans and things like that, if there's an outbreak, you're going to have – if there's an outbreak at the link, I say that they two games or 3 games, they're going to fully clean. They're not going to have fans in, and then they go back to normal. The same way if there's a sickness on a cruise ship, they cleanse it, and you go on with your day. Fortunately, this virus is not as lethal as they were saying at first. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not killing people.
Too.
Right. Right, and so that's what's important. So I'm glad that more data is coming out, and I can see the NFL having fans this coming season, mostly in a lot of places at full capacity. And fingers crossed for the safety of everyone that it's going to be okay.
It's just ludicrous and blasphemous that they just like how everything happened.
Right. Like we think back to March when Rudy Gobert was diagnosed with the coronavirus. Gee, the Sixers Pistons game ended at like 9:30, and by 11 the entire NBA was shut down. So
yeah. And
another thing changed, definitely.
And another thing too, I want to add to that. I will say yes, masks will be required at these events, especially on indoor events, because indoor events, everybody's in one. I'm not a health expert. I'm not smart. I'm smart to a certain point.
For sports, definitely. We got the good sports
Yeah,
takes.
but I don't know. I don't know how the virus moves. I know it's airborne, but I don't know how it moves with fresh air constantly coming in and out. So we
Right.
got to keep that in mind too. And plus, I kind of find it a little bit sad that we gotta remind people to wash their hands after using the bathroom. That's 4-year-old stuff.
There's going to be tons of reminders this year. There's going to be a lot of things like that as states continue to open up. There's going to be more guidelines. So
Yeah.
for this, it's purely a debate for the two of us to discuss. But what team? So here's a good question. Then we'll wrap it up. What team would benefit the most, and what team would benefit the least from having no fans in the NFL?
Oh, see, that's hard because every fan base and every team has different motivation for the.
Yep.
We go to Eagles games, and everyone have been to Eagles game. We give them a roar on defense. You heard what that. You heard what
Third down, getting loud.
It's a push on 3rd and 4th down for those guys on defense.
Definitely.
Offense, on the other hand,
the silent count, the audibles that teams are able to do. So I'll tell you mine, and so I'll tell you it just from. So the team that would benefit the least, I'm going to say the Seattle Seahawks. The reason for that,
oh, yeah, and
the reason for the Seattle Seahawks is because the 12th man, it's a very loud stadium and things like that. My team that I think would benefit the most, I'm between the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers for two different reasons, actually. The Chargers because they have no fans, so opposing fans can't come in and make it loud. But for the Rams, they like to make plays. They like to make a lot of changes at the line. Sean McVay lines up Jared Goff with at least a few seconds to go, and he'll tell him to play. It would be easier for him. So I'm going to go with the Chargers and Rams for the teams that would benefit the most, and the Seattle Seahawks that would benefit the least.
So I'm gonna answer that too. I think the teams that would benefit the least from it would be, or not benefit at all, would be the Chiefs and the Seahawks, because obviously the Chiefs back in I forgot they were the loudest, and I think teams that will benefit from it would be, like you said, the Chargers, because they don't have no fans.
No fans.
They don't have any fans, and they still probably won't have any fans. And I think another team that will benefit from it too, the Philadelphia Eagles might offensively.
In other stadiums?
In other stadiums, yes.
I haven't checked their away schedule that much, but I'm sure definitely I can see. I know they play in Arizona, and another team that came to mind too, the New Orleans Saints. Definitely for them how loud it is. I think the Saints would.
I think the Saints.
If you give Tom Brady an opportunity to listen and analyze at the line, his one away game this year in New Orleans, he's gonna tear that defense apart.
But I think with dome stadiums, I think every team that has a dome stadium, especially like New Orleans, where it's really compacted and together,
it's going to be a disadvantage.
That's a disadvantage because
you get to see the true skill set of a team when they're fully healthy and they fully can hear and everything like that.
Like if you can hear all the audibles that are going on and you can hear the snap count, and especially with a person like Tom Brady on the other end, or to give or take, even though Matt Ryan's kind of garbage now, but Matt Ryan too and whoever else.
Make adjustments. You see Julio Jones one-on-one. You point that out.
You can hear it, but I also think it'll be an advantage for defense too, because you can hear things. Sometimes the defense might not be able to hear, but it might be a motivation. But it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. I think for baseball, when it comes to big situations when home runs, it's gonna be it's gonna kind of sad to hear this. Nothing. And
it'll be strange, but I think it'll remind them of their college days, or depending on how big or small their college was, and. Remember, these guys, a lot of them, you start out with no fans. And the only playing that I've had in every sport that I've played has pretty much been without fans. So hitting a home run, you hear your teammates cheer, that's about it. Or in basketball, for the most part, street ball, things like that.
Basketball would be the worst.
For these guys, for a lot of the NBA players, playing without fans is not a new thing. It's just playing in the organized game that's going to be different. So, Gavin, any other closing remarks you want to make as we start to wrap the show up today?
Yeah, NBA playoffs is not going to be the same without the crowd chants and boos and taunts and everything. But all in all, that's it. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. I appreciate everyone for coming out.
Definitely.
The first one. And hope we can keep it going.
Definitely. And so thank you, everybody who watched or is watching this after the recording. If you guys have any suggestions for us as a team, feel free to let either of us know, comment it in the section, as well as take a look at the links on the YouTube. You can support us on Patreon, or you can go ahead and take a look at Teespring if you're interested in getting any apparel for us. Again, feel free to share with your friends. And most importantly, at the end of the month, we're going to vote on which organization we're going to be donating 10% of our proceeds to after this month is over. And we hope to continue that in the future and help make a difference in our society, as well as uniting all of us through sports as we continue to open up. Gavin, anything else you want to chime in on?
I want to say thank you to Joy, Mr. Perry, and Kaylin Flynn for being here and commenting. We
Definitely. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, and for those that are going to watch afterward live, we hope one day you can join us live. But if not, it's okay. Thank you for the support, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing, and we do plan for one day for us to be together doing it, and we are going to have other people on joining us when we're talking live. So just stay. It's going to be great.
Awesome, man. If anybody knows anyone that's interested in being on the show, we'd love to have them on. We have our designated Cowboys fan to come on. We have potentially other people lined up. So we'll go from there. Everyone, thanks for tuning in today, and we'll come on tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and we'll see you all when you come on next. Thanks everyone again.
Share.
Instagram, YouTube, wherever you are able to share on your platform, definitely let people know.
We're going to try to make it to Apple Podcasts and everything.
At Spotify, and we're going to get we're a podcast and a talk show. You can watch us on YouTube, obviously, but we're also going to download the audio file, put them on Spotify as well, so you can listen on the go. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see anyone that stops by tomorrow.
Have a good one, Fleur.